This is Johnny Nelson and you're watching Sporting Icons.
So again, this video will cause up a little bit of a debate. That's for sure. Everybody will have their own preferences and that's fine. Please make sure you put them in the comment section below. Change my mind about my team. Now, football is something that I grew up with and I always studied footballers of past and tried to emulate so many of them. And of course, most of the players that I'll be putting in here way before my time. Of course they were. And it would be quite easy just to put the 1966 World Cup winning team as the first 11. That'd be very easy. But I decided to go through it individually and put in who I think are the best ever England football players in certain positions. So let's start off with Gordon Banks. Gordon Banks, the best goalkeeper that England has ever produced, in my honest opinion, ahead of Peter Shilton, ahead of Ray Clements, ahead of David Seaman. I think that Gordon Banks is head and shoulders above everybody else, and legend for Leicester and I believe Stoke City as well. So Gordon Banks, outstanding goalkeeper. At right back, I chose George Cohen. He was a one-club man for Fulham. Again, way before my time. But for England as well, while he didn't play too many games, it's quite difficult to think of a right back who would probably replace George Cohen. Some people may say like Gary Neville. Gary Neville was excellent for Manchester United, but for England, tosh. Much like plenty of other footballers in the past, excellent within their club, put an England football strip on them, they can't seem to play together for some kind of reason. But that's why I chose George Cohen, and the same for many others as well. The late great Bobby Moore, 1966 World Cup winner as well, outstanding defender, and of course legend for West Ham. I don't need to talk about Bobby Moore too much in this one, do I? I think most of you will probably know who Bobby Moore is. Jackie Charlton, again, a legend within Leeds United. He's from Newcastle in the northeast. It's a shame that he never played for Newcastle United, which of course is my team. Again, a player way before my time, but Jack Charlton, the footage that I've seen of Jack Charlton was outstanding, and I'll be quite pushed or hard pushed to replace or find somebody from England better than Jack Charlton in defence. We could probably look at, say, a Tony Adams for sure, a Rio Ferdinand. Again, you see, some of these players were great for their club, like John Terry, but put England top on them, they were okay, but not outstanding. Jack Charlton was outstanding for England and for Leeds as well. Left back, Stuart Pearce. This is a real difficult one for me because I couldn't really think of any left backs, maybe Ashley Cole or something, but who were outstanding for England other than Stuart Pearce. Stuart Pearce, of course, very vocal on the pitch. I remember Stuart Pearce quite well, especially when he played for Newcastle and Nottingham Forest. But he was a player that was aggressive and he played pretty dirty, to be honest with you, as well. But excellent left foot, very powerful free kick taker as well, and a very good defender when he was on form. So for me, Stuart Pearce at left back. The two central midfielders, Paul Gascoigne. For me, Paul Gascoigne is probably the greatest ever England football player in any position. I think that Paul Gascoigne is technically the best that England has ever produced. In midfield, a playmaker, flair, will get goals, score free kicks, and of course create a lot of controversy as well. Don't get me wrong, he did a lot of stupid things on the football pitch and especially off of it. But on the football pitch, overall, genius for England, especially in 1990, where he pretty much made his name. And of course for Tottenham Hospur, Newcastle United, Rangers, Lazio to a lesser extent, and a few others as well. But Paul Gascoigne, outstanding football player, as was Bobby Charlton. Now I know Bobby Charlton, I've got him in midfield, and he's predominantly a forward football player, especially for Manchester United and for England. But I just couldn't put him above the two that I've got right there, and I'll explain why in a second. But I think that Bobby Charlton, as an attacking midfielder, as a target man, excellent at running forward, great at scoring goals, and very passionate as well. Again, much like his brother Jack, should have played for Newcastle, but opted to play for Manchester United. Is what it is, eh? On the left, John Barnes. Again, that was quite difficult for me to choose for left, because again, England, we don't produce that many good left-sided players. I know John Barnes, he can play anywhere. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can play in the centre. But I think that John Barnes, when he's on form, was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable, especially for Liverpool. He did okay with Newcastle, but, you know, that was towards the end of his career, much like Ian Rush and all that kind of guys as well. But John Barnes for England, he did have some outstanding games. He had some pretty poor ones as well. But I think that when I'm trying to think of a left-sided player or a player who could play on the left-hand side, I think that John Barnes would be quite difficult to overlook, honestly. Again, this is all for past retired players. Of course, we've got a few left-sided players who are playing now who could arguably go in there. But for past players, I like to put John Barnes on the left. On the right, Stanley Matthews. Again, he was a player who was outstanding. He could play on the right, he could play on the left, he could play in the centre. But I think the right-hand side was probably his best position. Of what I've seen of him, of what I know of him on the right-hand side, very, very good at scoring goals. He always wanted to win the FA Cup, so his father could see, but unfortunately his father passed away. And Stanley Matthews was a guy who, he always looked old. I don't know why, maybe it's just the old black and white footage, I don't know. But he won the FA Cup finally, and there's famous pictures of him holding up the FA Cup so he could show his dad as he's pointing it towards the sky. And outstanding football player. I know one of his biggest regrets was the fact that him and the rest of the England team gave the Nazi salute when they played Germany when Hitler was in attendance. Of course, they didn't really know what it was that they were doing at the time until much later. But either way, it is what it is. So for me, Stanley Matthews on there as well. Now, two front players. I've got Jimmy Greaves. Excellent player for England. He didn't make the final for the 1966 World Cup team due to injury, which is why Geoff Hurst got the nod. And in some ways, you could probably argue, thankfully, he did. Obviously, Geoff Hurst, he got that hat-trick. But with Jimmy Greaves, for England, a pure goal machine. For Chelsea, for Tottenham, absolute goal machine. If you ask anybody from who supports Tottenham, who knows about the history, you mention the name Jimmy Greaves, and it will get them. Okay, because they love Jimmy Greaves. And of what I've seen of Jimmy Greaves, again, outstanding goal machine. Back in his era, he was like the Alan Shearer. All right, he was like the Michael Owen. Just an absolute goal machine, he really was. And of course, I got Gary Lineker, somebody who kind of was in my era. Of course, I was a very small kid, but still, with Gary Lineker, I remember as a kid, people used to talk about Gary Lineker as the goal hanger. And whenever I played football, if I was up front, I'd just do what Gary Lineker done. Wait for the ball and kick it straight at the goal. All right, and Gary Lineker, outstanding for Tottenham, outstanding for Leicester, and of course for England. Had a very brief stint at Barcelona as well. But Gary Lineker, he just about edged it over Alan Shearer, over Wayne Rooney, for example, because Gary Lineker would always manage to do it on the big stage, whereas so many players couldn't. They'd fold. Like Wayne Rooney never really performed on the big stage. There's all this build-up that Wayne Rooney could do it. Never really did it. Of course, Harry Kane, he's come close, that's for sure. But other ones, again, Teddy Sheringham was a great striker. And so many other ones. But so many England players were great for club, but not so great for country. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, individually fantastic for their club. Put an England shirt on, they just couldn't play together. So this is why I chose this particular team. And on the substitutes, goalkeeper Peter Shilton. My mum's favourite goalkeeper, of course, was Peter Shilton. Yes, he was the one who got done by Diego Maradona when he scored that hand of God, quote unquote, goal past him. But Peter Shilton, legend for, was it Leicester? Was it Nottingham Forest? I've forgotten. But for England, very, very reliable. And for England goalkeepers, we've had so many, like David Seaman, who were great goalkeepers for club, but would turn into butterfingers for England. I don't quite know what it was. Peter Shilton did have some pretty hairy moments in goal for England, but overall, I think he was absolutely outstanding. Tony Adams as well, a typical English defender. Didn't do too much else other than defend and orchestrate the defence. That's what he'd done. Very difficult to get past. And never did anything flair with it. Will come up front, the occasional for the the cross to try and get a header in due to his size. But Tony Adams, great for Arsenal and very good for England. Brian Robson, Captain Marvel. Again, outstanding football player for England. Outstanding for Manchester United. I wish that he'd have played for Newcastle when he kind of had the opportunity to do so. Of course, this is where he's from the North East. But Manchester United is where he made his name. And of course, with the World Cups and that, and the England teams with Brian Robson, him and his partnership with David Platt was outstanding. I put David Beckham in here. David Beckham, of course, I could have put quite happily on the pitch in the first 11. But again, David Beckham, while he's outstanding for Manchester United, outstanding for Real Madrid and that, but for England, he would have some very good games. In fact, he pulled England from the brink of defeat on quite a few occasions. Managed to score a goal at last minute from a free kick or a set play or whatever it may be to rescue England. But he would have some pretty crap moments on the England football pitch, let's be brutally honest, where he would almost cost England certain games as well. So that's why I put him on the bench rather than the first 11. But David Beckham, brilliant free kick taker. He could run with the ball and kick that ball to any part of the pitch that he chose, and it would land on a 50-pence piece if you put it down there. Outstanding player. And Nat Lofthouse, Bolton Wanderers legend, excellent for England as well. Of course, this is way back when, but this was back in the era when he played for England, when England weren't that good. But he was one of these outstanding players. He really was. So that's why I put Nat Lofthouse on the substitute bench. In my opinion, he could quite happily replace either Gary Lineker or Jimmy Greaves. But anyway, that's mine. You drop me yours. Click thumbs up and subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.